We are live. Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for joining in. And I promise you it will be a very interesting session because of several reasons. One, because it's IIM Indore and Free Press Journal coming together. But more importantly, we have a man like Sadashiv with us. Sadashiv Nayak is incredible, as Himanshu will tell you. Again, I must also make a couple of announcements. We need to thank our radio partner, 92.7 Big FM, and outreach partner, Money Life Magazine. Both of them have helped us, getting us the right kind of publicity in addition to what we can do. These are difficult times, and we have tried, IIM Indore and Free Press Journal, to constantly pick up themes and people who can tell you how difficult the times are and how they're trying to find a way out. And we've had brilliant speakers in the past. If you go to the Free Press YouTube channel, you'll find all our past speakers and all our future speakers also. One more little announcement. Next week, there's a slight departure from our normal schedule, where instead of 3 o'clock, we'll begin at 4 o'clock. Because a speaker cannot come in at 3 o'clock, come in at 4 o'clock. So without wasting time, let me hand over a session to Himanshu Rai, Director of IIM Indore, who will introduce our main speaker.
A very good afternoon to all of our viewers here. And I hope all of you are staying home and staying safe. It is a pleasure and indeed a privilege that we have with us Mr. Sadashiv Nayak, the CEO of Integrated Food Business of Future Group. Prior to Future Group, Sadashiv has worked with Hindustan Unilever and Asian Paints. Sadashiv did his engineering from Karnataka Regional Engineering College, now NIT Surathkal, and his post-graduation in business management from XLRI Jamshedpur. He stays in Mumbai with his wife Radhika and his twin sons. And very importantly, Sadashiv is a close friend and my engineering college batchmate. So Sadashiv, over to you. Before Bhaskar and I inundate you with questions regarding what is the future of retail going to be post-COVID in India, let's hear from you something about retail.
Sure. Thank you. And thanks for the audience who's joined in. I must confess that it'll be very difficult for me to match the wisdom of Bhaskar ji here and the energy of Himanshu. But I'm going to try my best to kind of share as much as I can. I think I'll just talk about what COVID meant to us and what we have done really. And frankly, it has been a good 5 weeks of action, 5 to 7 weeks of action. But at the outset, repeating possibly what is important is retail is a business. We are in the business of serving consumption. For us, consumption is important. And wherever there's consumption, a retailer like BigBazaar serves. And right now when I'm speaking, and happy for the audience to say that I'm representing the entire retail industry, including the small grocer, whom I've always had respect, but in COVID time, the respect has multiplied several times. So really, it's really about retail. We are in the business of serving consumption. And one analogy which I has to give Bhaskar ji is always to say retail, and just to tell anyone who joins retail new, is that it's like life on a treadmill and suddenly your shoelaces come off. And I don't think you can say that, can I tie my shoelace on the treadmill? You're going to fall off. If you switch off the treadmill, then retail will shut down. Because if you say, let me shut down my store for 2 days and come back on the third day, I think the customers are not going to come back. What we faced in the last 5 or 6 weeks really was, it was a treadmill. Our shoelaces went off because we didn't have enough business. And the lights went out. So we had to do all three of it together, which is really, imagine how to tie your shoelace in a dark environment on a running treadmill. And that's what's been the journey. Having said that, amazing victories, I would say, for us, and allow me to be a little audacious when I make this thing. But I think I saw 3 or 4 people win. One, I think we saw the shopkeepers win. And when I mean shopkeepers, I'm not counting a lot of organized retail. We, of course, are doing our best. But a lot of shopkeepers, a lot of vendors who really won and who've been at it serving each one of us in this moment of trouble. I think delivery staff won. And they are the people who are possibly, they have not yet got the tag of a warrior. I think the tag we should reserve for the more people like doctors and armed forces and the police who've been at it. But I think the delivery staff who've been happily at times facing resistance on the road or not worrying about their own health, trying to deliver goods to you, so they won. I think to me, our own staff, BigBazaar, and as you told Bhaskar ji later on, happy to kind of share what we did. I think I keep telling people that they have parents, spouses, brothers, sisters like us who told them कि मोदी जी ने बोला दुकान घर से मत निकलिए, but these guys still moved out. I know some of them who had their personal dilemma said कि sir, one of them told me anecdotally, my father wants me to come, but my mother says stay at home. What do I do? So I said दोनों की बात सुन लो, 2 दिन आना 2 दिन मत आना. So really, I think a staff won, and at any point of time, I think around 8 to 10,000 of our staff were turning up, and they come from very humble backgrounds. They are all minimum wages staff, so they didn't have railways and buses to come. But somehow, in an earlier interview, I was hearing what Sodhi ji said last week, I think, or last to last week. I think our managers got in the act, got their own personal cars and scooters, and they would rally, carry the staff back home. I think the authorities won because after the initial 1 or 2 days of confusion, which was there after the lockdown, I think all of them swung into action. I have my own essential services pass. I can go on the road. But they were happy to kind of, the moment you would do some basic checks that you are actually working for an organization, they would give you the pass. So I think a lot of our staff could move. And lastly, I think that's the statement which gives me the belief that things are going to be perfectly okay, is that customers won. And let me tell you why. I think the customers came to our stores, the customers ordered on the phone. A lot of senior citizens whom we call young elder customers, they kind of made sure that they placed their orders on WhatsApp. When the customers came, I think many of them told me how to do hygiene better. They didn't know my designation or what role I play. I had a uniform, but they had the sensitivity to come and say, ये आप ठीक नहीं कर रहे, ये ठीक कर दीजिए, इसको सफा कर दीजिए. So to me, I think the customers were clearly involved in what they wanted. And things like we had a queue outside a store. So when I would go and tell a customer, or my staff would go and tell a customer, कि साहब please 15 minute में shopping खत्म कर देना, they would do it. So there is social distancing being followed. So I think we should not forget it that customers won. When we went into the lockdown, the videos floating around was people fighting over tissue papers in Australia, people bashing each other in some other country. You would have heard very little cases. Of course, we are the fortunate few that we had means around. We are not really in the rural hinterland where things would have been a little worse off. But I think the customers really managed things very sensitively, looked after each other. I know people who went and helped senior citizens in their buildings. I know people who collected orders for their buildings. So I think it's the customer who won, which will be a lot of confidence for the time to go ahead. What we really did really was 3 things, I would say. I think we really a lot of respect for daily cash flows came. I think we, frankly, for a retailer, jitna paisa aata hai, utna you have monies to pay. And those were 8. We got a shock where it came down significantly, and then there was a trickle coming in every day. But we made sure that there was a huge respect for the daily cash flow. We knew that whatever we are going to sell today is going to make our payments for tomorrow, and maybe a small part we can keep it out for our salaries of our staff. So the respect for daily cash flows, it's almost like the Padta system. Like we all became shopkeepers to the truest sense, where we were our store managers. We call them store kartas, Himanshu, that will be of, I shared with you last time. These kartas were actually keeping an account of daily cash flows, which was quite amazing. I think we had to reassure a lot of people. We had to reassure, even till date, yesterday, some senior person from the municipality called me to say, do you have stock? So we had to continuously reassure our police, we had to reassure government, we had to assure the Ministry of Health that we are following these things. And finally, the voice of advocacy mattered. So I think 2 state governments approached us to say, whatever standard operating protocols you're following in your store, can you help us download it to the neighborhood grocer? So we converted into vernacular, we made it into audio-visual medium, we made it into very simple sheets. Our teams went and taught at least the people around our stores to say how to follow social distancing, etc., etc. APMCs were having some trouble when a lot of trucks piled up. So we actually had some of our learning on how we are managing the inwards and outwards, the trucks inside a store. We shared that document to the authorities as well. And finally, many places we were able to influence timings. When there was an issue on timings, we made sure that the government was following a timing which was safe for citizen, and yet sustainable for the retailer and the system around. So these were three things we did. Honestly, I think what really mattered at the end was to what we did to our teams. I think we knew that the monies were going to come down. We had to maintain business continuity and at the same time reassure people. Many of people like me who I did go to the stores, but that is my only reason to go to the stores was to make sure that our staff are protected and hygienically kept. And I'm often reminded of what the announcement we get in the airline. When there's turbulence, first take care of yourself and then take care of the others and take care of your children. So I often would give that example to tell the staff saying, if you're taking care of your health, if you have your masks and if you have social distancing, it's but natural that the customers will also do that. So my only role in the stores was to make sure that they would do that. But after that, a lot of time which me and our senior colleagues really spent was in communicating. I think transparency mattered. It was important for us to share with our teams to say that, listen, we won't have the luxuries of what we had maybe 5 months back. The marketing team is actually working on a zero budget thought, and we already done 4 campaigns without any monies. I'm not counting human effort as time here, but they all put in human effort. There's a Ramzan campaign we have done with no monies, and I think so. There's a zero budget thought that they're working on. We had to go and communicate with families. Each 30,000 people, staff, we wrote a letter to the parents to say that these are the measures we are trying to make sure that your child is safe with us. Having said that, if you have any concern, and obviously not 30,000 people turned up, but if you have any concern, please keep your child back at home. So that letter to the family also mattered a lot. We made all our CEOs write these letters individually to each of their parents by their name. So I thought the learning to me was reassure, give a lot of communication, give a lot of hope. I think at the end of it, I keep telling my teams in a philosophical note that we are all going to survive this and survive this very, very well. I think what is important is how many people we are going to take along with us. So if it's about a daily cash flow, am I wondering about my distributor who's also struggling today? If I'm wondering of reducing my costs, am I thinking of my landlord who has been supportive in kind of giving us some token into the rentals? If I'm making sure that I'm reducing inventory, how do I make sure that if I'm looking at the health of the inventory, how am I looking at the health of the delivery boy who come and deliver those goods to us? So it's really about how many of them we are going to take along with us. As a country, we're rich, vibrant, young. We are, of course, going to survive this. There's absolutely no doubt. The issue is in this period, how many people are we going to take along with us? So I know of many people, and Himanshu is one of them, who really moved out in their personal capacity to help people. Many people are helping who are the migrant laborers, etc. Even if you make a difference to 2 people, I think it matters a lot. If you collected the order of your neighborhood person who's not able to move out for various reasons, maybe he's physically challenged or is quarantined, I think you've done your bit in this period. So the idea is really, we will survive, but how many people are we going to carry along is going to be the determining factor. Many more points we can go along, Bhaskarji, but happy to kind of pause and ask if there's any observations or anything which you'd like to ask me.
You know, something in your talk, even before you began your talk, questions started pouring in. But
okay.
Yeah, I'll start with something which I was particularly curious about, and I'm sure a lot of my faculty and students would be curious about. So I want to put that out of the way before we start taking in questions from the audience. Now, BigBazaar, like any other retailer, has been badly mauled in this particular case, and you talked about how you went about addressing this particular issue, but it has also started making its very first forays, those baby steps into e-commerce and home delivery. So what has your experience been so far with that?
And phone booking.
And phone booking, exactly.
Yeah. Phone booking was an accident. I had the fortune to explain to Bhaskarji separately, but it was an accident. And then, so I think let's see how were we mauled as in any physical retailer. While it's a very hard word, I think one was we were not able to sell non-essentials. I think, and that was the right decision for the government to take, because we wanted to reduce crowding. So the stores, 50% of our store physically were shut, the lights were off, the air conditions were off. Daily essentials needed to flow in, and it's flowed in very well. I think we need to sell much, much more. There were many people who are regular customers who wanted to buy, but they did not want to come physically to the stores. So these were the 3 stuff which happened. Staff had come. we had taken an internal call that no staff will lose their jobs. So we had to make sure that with whatever little monies we have, we are giving something to everyone. So we did a couple of steps. One, we kind of mentally switched off the non-essentials for the first 3 weeks, and now we've come back with a bang. We got our mobile shopping app immediately activated. I personally would say the intent of that app is 9 out of 10. The experience of the app, and all of us are conscious about it, not more than 5 out of 10, but happy to kind of take any more learnings and do that. The app was able to deliver stuff to you by in the next 2 or 3 days initially. And now we've kind of perfected it so we can deliver the very next day to you. But the numbers was very important. What really happened, and the first 7 days, I was only answering complaints on my LinkedIn and my other profiles, was really to say the numbers were given by our own store kartas, because they suddenly rose to the occasion. And they said, if there's a problem, let me share my number. And those numbers just traveled. So if you called a store in Ghaziabad, there would be so many calls happening at any point of time that the lines collapsed. And we were having a tough time. We were not able to explain to customers. Frankly, that is not the way to handle when the first day or the second day of the lockdown is there.
Yes.
But I would kind of underline that something came outside our store kartas who said, let me give my personal number. How does it matter? So even when they were sleeping in the home, they would get a call saying, order kal dena hai. And that's the confusion which happened in the first 2-3 days. But two learnings came out of it. One, a large part of India wants to talk and give orders. Now, whether we like it or not, that's a reality. So we are now thinking of how to use chatbots to kind of make that happen. Second, there are many people like young elders, people with disabilities, etc., who said that I need some other way to do, and I again need to talk to people. So we actually in every store had a small call center where people were taking orders on Excel, building it up. And later on, when the app came in, we were diverting calls to the app. So really, our experience on that front has been of learning, Himanshu. Where we scored over the others is, I think our stores are located in 280 locations, BigBazaars across the country. Unlike the e-com players who possibly have dark stores limited in certain geographies, we were spread out in 280 stores. All that we tried to do is, first we alerted our own staff to come with their scooters, their bikes, and their cars, and said, you go and deliver, because we are not getting delivery people in the first week of the lockdown. Secondly, because we are in every catchment, so if I'm in the Lucknow or the Indore catchment, then I already know 2 or 3 rickshaw fellows, I need 3 or 4 tempo fellows. That came to our advantage. So we were spread out in 280 stores. So at any point of time when we were tracking, 170 to 220 stores were always delivering. And there was almost a control room center saying, okay, these 4 stores have just gone down, these 5 stores have come up. But the advantage we had is we were in the catchment, we had local contacts, we were not relying on only few small dark spot locations to do it. We also have a tie-up with Amazon. We are on the Amazon Prime stuff. Even they came online. So overall, I think the delivery was a part which we were trying to crack, which is new to us. We did the local delivery part. We tied up with a lot of last mile delivery people like Zoom cars, some of the cab operators who themselves didn't have any business to do. So they were happy to kind of deliver goods for us. So frankly, it has been I would say it's been a phase of excellent learning. We recognize that our experience is not the best, but my own take was, this is the time to first meet the basics. We will kind of keep building on this experience as we go along. I hope I've answered what you asked me, Himanshu.
Absolutely, Sadashiv. And I think another thing that you have cracked is this amazing candor with which you have accepted as to what are those areas that you need to do better. And this absolutely brilliant approach of saying that you're open to suggestions. This, I think, I've always known you to have this as a person, and I'm so glad that this has also become a mantra for the group. Now, I still remember, Sadashiv, that last time when I was speaking to Mr. Kishore Biani, when I was in Mumbai, we spoke about speed and imagination as the two things that drive over here. Now, clearly, Future Group has shown both so far as the COVID times are concerned. You have shown imagination in coming up with these new ideas, and you've shown speed with which you have actually executed these ideas. But there is one thing which is a slight niggle. Now, most of the BigBazaar stores, for example, are a part of malls, and the malls are still not open. Now, how do you address that? And I don't see them opening in the next few weeks. How do you address that?
Yeah, so fortunately, it's not a uniform case everywhere. So Mumbai malls are open for BigBazaar. but only for essentials. Yeah, I should clarify that, only for essentials. In many other smaller geographies, we may manage to get them open. So frankly, you're right, it's a task. But I'll tell you what the action plan we had. From an advocacy part, the government has come with something known as Suraksha Store, which is really a X point rating to make sure that the store is safe. And my point is, the classic retail analogy we used to say, "Jo dikhta hai wo bikta hai," we used to say that. I'm going around telling people and even the higher ups in the authorities to say, mall, you have to feel very safe because you can see everything in front of your eyes. If there's a mistake, I can come and say, Himanshu, listen, your clothes are not folded well, or listen, you've not kept your toilets clean. So everything is there to be seen. So frankly, we're making a pitch to say that let's not paint mall as that dark, dingy thing which suddenly has trapped all things which are not right for humanity. I would say it's a much bigger place which is much more organized. You can control the entry and exit, and you can actually see people, things which can happen. So I'm picking up my learnings from the standalone stores for the malls. I'll tell you what we have done for that. One, we've got a SOP which we've pasted on the walls so that anyone can come and do. Since you mentioned community, I should make an interesting thing. My team has actually got consumer panels for every store. And the underlying tone is this. Listen, we don't know everything. If we knew everything, we would have done much, much better. We don't know everything when it comes to your safety, when it comes to your convenience. We are welcoming any inputs from you. So there's this set of 5 or 6 people, and you'll always realize there'll be some people who will be vocal, who are coming up front and saying, okay, you want to keep it safer. Why don't you do these 3 things? Why don't you make like an idea which came to say, every time a trolley is handed over, you clean it. And every time a trolley is taken, you clean it. It is a simple thought, but we kind of made sure. People said when you're opening a trial rooms, you can take a steamer and steam all the clothes in front of the customer to assure him that we are taking care. So these are ideas that the consumer panel is giving. We are trying to use that same for the mall. One is a Suraksha store, which we're trying to build as a Suraksha mall thought. Second, we are asking the malls to say, open it up as much as you can, open up the mall and say, these are the things, anyone is welcome. The way some of the restaurants will say, you're welcome to see my kitchen. If the mall can open up and say, come and see whatever you want to see, is the confidence with which you should go. And third, as BigBazaar, I think the additional onus is to say that we are serving daily essentials. It is important to kind of keep the store opening. At the root of the thought is this, that right now people want to feel safe, Bhaskar ji, Himanshu, and I don't think we can deny people that. But very soon we are going to be faced with the consumption task ahead of us. Because the day India stops consuming, a lot more other damage will happen. I think it's just round the corner. Right now, I don't think we should cross that and say, no, we will open a mall because we think consumption is important. I think right now is the time when the shock has come. The shock is just weaning off. As I told you, Mumbai has been keeping malls open. I'm sure some other cities will follow soon. The idea, therefore, is to go back and say, these are the 5 things we can do. We don't know everything which to counter this, but whatever, if there's any a resident association which wants to say that my mall should be safer by doing these things, happy to do it. We're also encouraging common delivery services for mall. Why have BigBazaar sending one delivery, the pizza guy sending one delivery? Saying, let's have a delivery pool and the mall can go out and deliver for various stuff. So those are the things which you're working on. So really our role as a community, and I'm not saying only BigBazaar is doing it. I know many of my retailer communities are doing it. I think our role as a community citizen is coming up. I must share this, when we were facing some staff issues, I think 2 of my strong competitors came up and said, do you want staff? Because our staff are free now, because our stores are closed. And they actually offered staff to help us. So I think that itself was a sign of what community can mean for us in this space now.
Excellent.
Yeah, Bhaskar.
Okay. At least 4 questions related to supply chains.
Yeah.
When you have a COVID-like situation, how do you manage supply chains?
Yeah. So supply chain, to simplify stuff, I think the non-essentials were shut, which is clothes and home items were shut. So supply chain in a way was totally shut up. And I'm going to really talk of the inwards of supply chain. Outwards, we spoke of delivery, so I'm not going to talk about it now. Yes. So the inwards of supply chain, frankly, in food, there are 3 types of supply chain. The long shelf life supply chain. There is the commodities, which are the atta, dal, chawal, which have a little bit of loose component. And then there's a perishable supply chain. These were 3 supply chain which are there. The most important was perishables and the commodity, because I think there's an impact also right till the farmer. The supply chain will have a distributor, it will have the APMC, and then right till the farmer. We did get a lot of calls out saying, I've got 20,000 watermelons doing nothing. Can you pick it up for us? I've got so much mangoes. There's nothing to sell. Can we send it across to you? So the perishable was very important for us to, in two ways. One, customers wanted perishables. And second, we knew that we were going to impact a lot of people behind if we make that happen. So whatever monies we had, which was limited, we said, let's reserve it for perishables. The challenge we faced was because of this notification, suddenly green zone, red zone, orange zone, when a store would have to suddenly shut, the perishables would go waste. So we had to keep an eye on it. As I said, the daily cash flow approach got the store manager to say that I'm going to order my apple twice in a day. Maybe I'll not order, not apple really, let's say tomatoes, I'm going to order it twice in a day, because I don't want it to get wasted if the store is suddenly asked to shut. So they were alert on that count. The commodities and the staples is something which we made sure that we had a green channel approach for our distributors and the APMC vehicles which are coming in. When they would report, we would clear everything for them to make that happen. And when it came to the long lead life, the soap, shampoos, packaged foods, I think we took an extra effort to negotiate with our, not negotiate, really seek help of our partners to say, give us a little more stock. We may not be able to pay you immediately, but we want to clear up the space in our store to make sure that they don't disturb the fruit and vegetable supply chain is happening. So at a larger level, there was daily forecasting happening from a cash flow. We broke it into 3 parts. There was green channel for the staples, the oil, the atta, and the perishables is something which we've said, let's have multiple runs. For the non-perishables, and a lot of our partners really helped us there to say that we will give you more stocks. It's okay, you can pay it a little later, because we do recognize that you don't want to choke up your inwarding capacity.
Okay. You see, again, there's another thing which, in a way, marks you differently from other players in the field.
Yeah.
You have the e-commerce players, the Amazon, the Flipkart, the Dunzos, and all the big players. You have the mom and pop shops, and you have the physical stores like yours. Flipkart, which is both into this area, plus it's Walmart behind, also does physical deliveries.
Yeah.
Now, you were a physical store going into online store. When you do that, your pricing, your percentages, cash flows, how do you catch up with the biggies?
Yeah. Firstly, thanks for calling ourselves a physical store, because many people have a tendency to call online and offline. And I say, what is this offline business? Right? So thanks for calling. So you're one of the rare people who's called it a physical store. Yeah.
I'm learning from you.
Come on, sir. So I think what this time has only accentuated. I'm not saying this is the only time we got to know. I think retail always is an inclusive environment. I think I always say in decisions, it is always the and which matters and not or. So many of the dialogues which have happened in this space is saying, are you physical or are you online, or are you going to do this or you're going to do this? And frankly, what this has told us, we already had a small fledgling online business called fbbonline.com. It was a small business, but we now have gone into full-fledged delivery business during COVID. The only difference which we're trying to make is use our strengths and make it sustainable. What is our strength today? Our strength is we are present in 280 plus 90, 370 locations if I count the fashion stores as well. That becomes a strength because you can actually serve your customer faster. You can serve them at a smaller cost. You can serve them more adaptable, just the way a lot of our online, a lot of our mom and pop stores do. And second is sustainable is we have tried to educate our customers saying we are going to pass on a delivery cost to you. They're happy to kind of pay that as long as we're meeting that service. And second, we also told our team saying if it means doing delivery at a cost of unsustainable viability, don't do that. So we kind of put a red line because frankly, the sustainability is going to be counting far more in these times than anything else. There's a 25,000 people who's backing us, and we have to take care of them as well. It's not about being unsustainable in these times. So really, that's the difference. Use our strengths and be sustainable when it comes to delivery. We seem to have done a good job. A lot of last mile operators have kind of helped and jumped in, and within whatever cost we're charging the customers, have delivered. So that's been our approach, really, to say, don't choose this or that, but choose this and that. In fact, an interesting experiment we're doing, what Europe calls as curbside delivery. We're calling it pick up at store. We have kind of on our app. Yeah, on our app, you have an option to place the order. Suppose I'm just 10 minutes away from my store. It'll be a good walk for me. I can pick up 3 bags, one for Bhaskar, one for Himanshu, one for me, because they'll be light, and bring it home, rather than choking the retailer's delivery capacity just for 10 minutes distance. So pick up at store is an option we tried. Got adapted to around 5 to 6%, but I think it's a good start. The country will pick up soon. But Europe, it's called curbside delivery, and it's very, very popular as of now. So those are the attempts we're doing. In a broad, the headline is don't choose. I think welcome. We were physical. We are welcoming the online presence, but I don't think we're choosing saying will we be this or will we be that. We'll be both. But
you're viable in this space.
Yes, we are making sure that
online players are not viable. They actually have negative cash flows.
Well, will not be right on me to comment on them. I think there's a larger commentary to it. I think even before COVID, I think consumption in this country has to come out of people consuming more. Like one thing which Kishorji always told us in retail, I'm sure Himanshu also he would have mentioned, we were always taught never to fight with the grocer. We said, he's your colleague, he's your colleague retailer. Don't fight him by undercutting him. In fact, try and grow new products so that he can also do. So let's say when we started selling olive oil, or we started selling a magic mop, they were not able to sell initially. We sold it, we created the consumption. Now they are also selling it, and both of us are winning. So the idea was to grow consumption. It was not to displace consumption. So the point about viability you're referring to, and I'm sure everyone's coming around to that, but we have always said, don't view everyone as a competitor. I think we have to take them along. And when all of us grow, because the country is becoming younger, my kids are just coming into the consumption fray. They're going to spend more. So why give them a choice saying, no, don't buy from Bhaskar, buy from me. We should say, buy this from me and buy this from Bhaskar. So I think that's a larger commentary on growing consumption by not displacing, but adding to it.
Wonderful.
Brilliant. Okay. There are 2 questions I have here now, and both of them are the future.
Sure.
You are a large employer.
Yeah.
You are such a large employer, and you've given opportunities to people who would otherwise not have the dignity or the cash flow. Taking 10th standard pass and giving them a job with a title is incredible.
Yeah.
Do you see this employment rate at the rate at which you're growing continuing? Will you be able to employ more people? Because there's a lot of unemployment around. That's one part of the question. Because of a lot of migrants going back, you see a problem with the employment? So employment was one of the questions which I thought I'd ask you. And the question which I have is, what would you like to see the government do to make you more vibrant? You means the industry.
Sure. Right. So let me ask you a counter question. Will you stop buying shirts and trousers from whichever store you're going to go to, not necessarily BigBazaar?
No way.
Okay. If that's happening, then I want to reassure that there's nothing going to change for employment in the long term. The soothsayers, the people who are trying to paint a very grim scenario, and in a way they are right as well. We may see a consumption shock come in the initial period where people may not buy the so-called non-essentials, and that will have a challenge on people like retailers to employ people. So that's a challenge. But as long as we're convincing, no, we are going to permanently change our lifestyle, we're not going to buy clothes at all, etc. I think those are very imaginary situations. Let's see what the current scenario has done. Even within today, our concept of essentials in fashion has changed. Suddenly, when we opened up in some stores, track pants, nighties, nightgowns, undergarments, shorts, t-shirts have just gone off to the roof. So clearly, working from home has created another moment. The consumption has just shifted from party wear to something else. So to my mind, newer consumption opportunities have come, newer consumption occasions have come. As long as all of us stay committed, and I'm using a very hard word, as Indians, we stay committed that we are not going to fundamentally alter the way we are going to consume or punish ourselves by saying don't consume at all. There's nothing which will, there's no, I would say, long-standing dents into employment. You're asking very relevant questions, like what will be the immediate stuff? Frankly, for us, migrant will not impact as much, despite the migrants having, because we have stores. Like today, we have in Bihar, if I'm not wrong, 14 stores. We have in UP around 18 stores, and and there's a pipeline waiting to be opened up as we get our cash flows right.
Okay.
So frankly, we know some of our own staff who voluntarily moved to these places, and they're saying they're going to report it to them.
Excellent.
So that's something which is personally not impacting us because of our reach. The bigger question which you asked is, yes, dignity and let's say minimum wages which come from a basic education is what retail does. I don't think that we should change. If at all, my question is this, we often have a very elaborate, because I'm also an HR manager at times, and we often have elaborate recruitment procedures when we take these people. All that I'm saying is just look at two things in that person. Does he want to work? Which in 99% cases, you'll say that there's a hunger to work. And does he have a smile on his face? Just taking him in. Don't try and ask him multiple questions saying what is the outlook to life, and don't challenge. So that's where the country is. A huge enterprise in their own spaces of need to ability to work, because they're coming from very different backgrounds. I think at any point of time today, if I take a dipstick, 20% of our managers would be people who have joined us as the team member 15 years back. They've become store managers today. And today, when you speak to them, they will discuss retail strategy maybe better than what I'm doing, because he's rooted to the ground. So that's the transformation which is happening. I don't see that changing as long as you promise you're not going to stop buying shirts and trousers from whichever shop you're buying from. So I'm an optimist. I think there will be shifts happening, people moving out. Yes, migrants. I think the whole journey with the migrants are undertaking, when I'm hearing them, when I'm reading about it, it is painful. But I guess things will have to settle down. And as a country, we will settle down. So our journey to keep employing and upgrading labor will definitely not be paused, is my view.
Then what about what do you want would you like to see the government do to make sure that your industry becomes more vibrant?
So see, I think all of us are trying to analyze whatever has been announced so far. I think, in all fairness, some of the dependencies whom we have is getting addressed. Let's say some of our vendors are medium to short, medium scale, small scale vendors. I think they are hopefully being taken care of if this package is well executed. The farmers are being taken care of, which is extremely important.
Very crucial, yes.
And I think if the people who are possibly going to be unemployed, or if they're possibly going to get displaced or disrupted, I think there's some bit of subsidy which is going to them, which will have the larger mood of the nation not diverting towards crime and unhappiness. So I think that large part is being addressed. What we are making an appeal in our advocacy is, and retail is in that same conundrum where you almost treat, whether it's a small store like home enterprise or BigBazaar, you often say it's an unorganized sector. There's the tendency for generally the whole country to be seeing it that way, and it's for a reason that why it is so. We're only making a comment to the government and the people who matter to say that now let's start talking of demand as well. I think a lot of supply has got addressed, but a lot of demand needs to be now stroked. We need to talk about it. We need to be. I'll not be surprised if Dubai had to do a Dubai shopping festival to revive the economy. I'm not saying we'll get there, but that's an idea of how a government is conscious that when we stoke demand, it strokes many things else. So the commentary and the narrative is changing towards stoking demand. We are playing our part. I think one of the reasons, and thanks for the opportunity, but I'm talking to young minds, is to say that, guys, don't stop consuming, because our country cannot afford it in whichever way. Yeah? Take care of yourself, take care of your finances, but don't stop consuming, because a whole lot of it depends for the country. I keep saying, you stop buying one T-shirt less, trust me, it is going to impact at least 50 to 60 people livelihood somewhere behind, right from the yarn fellow to the manufacturer. And if all of us stop buying one T-shirt less, you know what's going to happen. So my take is, the narrative with the government or whoever matters is we are trying our best to take the narrative to consumption and to demand, and seeing a lot of good work happen on supply, a lot of positive measures have happened, but now let's talk about demand as well.
Okay. One last question here is,
sure.
Gone into home delivery, gone online.
Yeah.
Post-COVID, will this strengthen, will this grow simultaneously along with the physical?
Yeah, I see. If you take the country whom you want to emulate, we have figures which says that many counts are 3 times bigger than us, China. So now that progress is going to happen on many counts, but eventually the progress will start when the farmer, the laborer, entry-level labor, people like you and me all start consuming more. So we are underpenetrated across many categories. We have our own reasons. We have been a savings economy. We have our own reasons. At times when I make this whole commentary about consumption, it looks like a, if I may use the word, a selfish commentary of a retailer, but take that away. Assume I'm Himanshu's friend talking to you to say that when we start consuming, there'll be factories running, there'll be workers working, there'll be many more things happening. There'll be farmers who will be growing more apples and mangoes. So I think that headroom to consume is still safely 2 to 2.5 times ahead. Now, it'll be futile for any one of us to say, think that 2.5% jump is only going to come from online or offline. Today, e-commerce or delivery accounts to 3% of our urban consumption. So even if it doubles, it's going to be 6%. There's 94% to grow. So I think we need all our might. We need everyone on the ground. When I'm saying we are part of Amazon, we are part of Amazon 3 years back. There's a deliberate reason I'm mentioning it. We are a physical retailer. There was a person who knew online business, and we said, let's get along with them. We were conscious that there could be some common customers we'll share. But the spirit was to say, you get a new customer, we'll get a new customer. दो और दो पांच होना चाहिए, दो और दो तीन नहीं होना चाहिए. I think that's the thought which it told.
Wonderful. Anyway, Himanshu, closing remarks to you.
Great. Now, before I close, just one more question, Sadashiv.
Sure. And there are questions we can ask.
That when it comes to e-commerce, in any case, the margins are very, very small. Now, how do you handle that? Do you think going ahead, they are going to become smaller?
Yeah. So allow me to be a little technical, and then I'll tell you the broader thought. What is margin really? Margin starts from the price you're charging the customer, which is the listed price, then the markdown or the discount which you can do to stroke consumption, and then the cost of I'm simplifying it because I presume there'll be some students also there, and there'll be cost at which we are sourcing that product. Now, the cost is something which you can keep beating, but I think eventually what cost we pay as retailer also is going to impact the livelihood of the farmers, the happiness of a vendor, distributor. So beyond the point, I think we should work on technology and efficiency to bring down wastages. There's no point us saying that, oh, let me beat this farmer down till he gives me 1 more rupee. I think it doesn't help. He'll stop consuming. Again, we'll be having the same consumption failure. So cost is taken care of. There is a price which you want to charge the customer and the markdown. The price which you charge the customer, I think, involves a lot of big data, data science. Like the shirt which I'm wearing, I think we priced it at $7.99, but possibly it can be priced at $9.99 as well. And we've already done a lot of pricing experiments to know that to get there. So that's really a scientific thing. The country, as it becomes richer, if I make some value addition, I'm sure I'll be able to pay $1,099 myself for it. So that, I think, depends on the mood of the customer, the wealth of this nation, and how are you using big data to price it correctly. The challenge which you specifically asked on the third component, which is markdown. Now, markdown, and if I may be philosophical, you can say, I want to rule the whole world, so I will do markdown so that I finish everyone and I rule. And frankly, that's in a country like ours, just so diverse, so dependent on many stuff. I think it's not going to help. If you're not going to create jobs, it's not going to happen. So we have been very careful. Over time, we've been bringing that markdown to as little as we can. Be transparent in the pricing. Tell the customer saying, listen, there is this markdown, but I may as well pass it to you on an everyday price. The markdown we still keep to us to create festivals, large-scale events, because sometimes I need to go and tell Bhaskarji, you need to upgrade your washing machine. And by the time, because he might have said, let me upgrade it 3 years from now. But now, if he doesn't upgrade it 1 year from now, the country is going to stay where it is. So to hasten that upgradation, hasten newer products being sold, we may use markdown. So that's been our philosophy. Don't use markdown as a tool, as a weapon to finish people by saying, I have the scale, let me kill everyone. Use markdown as a smart way to engage, to be naughty with customers, to engage them, create a small fear and greed, make them buy more. Because when I'm saying this, I'm saying because a lot of positive things behind depend on them consuming. If you eat more pizzas, there's more wheat, there's more flour, there's more cheese, there's more capsicum which are going to get sold. So that use markdowns for that rather than saying I'm the cheapest pizza, let all the other shops shut down. So really, I think that's the answer. I personally feel I'm studying a lot of e-commerce players and physical retailers. They're all coming towards it. But yeah, the I would say the pressures of reporting results, etc., at times can tilt to say, let me be selfish and kill everyone. And before you kind of, yeah, sure.
Just one more little question, which I just going by what Himanshu asked. Do you have a lot of shrinkage, which is a nice word for theft, in your industry?
For us, it's manageable. I think we've been at it for the last 10 years. We have shrinkage. It is, I can share the numbers. It's closer to 0.5%.
Do that,
very manageable. We used to have a very large shrinkage. Shrinkage has three components: theft from inside, theft by customers, and data shrinkage, which is a big enemy. I mean, I said this is $7.99, but for whatever reason, if the computer system has got this price as $4.99, there's a 300 rupee shrinkage happening with every shirt which I sell. So we have worked a lot on data shrinkage and ruled it out almost to make it nil. There are manageable levels of internal theft and customer theft. Customer theft, I feel, and I don't think as a retailer we should be too bothered. It is part of collateral, part of the doing business. We never lose our sleep on it. We have got every store has got a camera room. We have the surveillance which is happening, and the common thing which I keep telling: the surveillance, the cameras, and the security guard is not to catch that one potential thief among 100. It is to make 99% feel safe.
Yes.
So I keep that approach.
Locks are made to keep honest people honest. Yeah, yes.
That's right. And all that I would say in the COVID, Himanshu, before you do the closing remarks, I think because a lot of young students have come to me saying, what will happen to our internship? What will happen to our jobs? And I keep telling them that I think for the future, there is belief that this country will thrive. I think our Supreme Commander has said that on television. All of us are believing it. So clearly, we feel that there's a belief that this country, nothing can go wrong. That's a future. That's a day after tomorrow. For tomorrow, I think we should have a lot of hope and faith, which is what I spoke about, saying carry people along. But I think a lot of people are getting stuck to say, will I lose my job? Will I become poorer by 1 year? I don't, as long as those thoughts don't come, I think today is the day for action. I think hopefully I've been telling you that in 5 weeks, we got the app ready. We went and served people with disabilities. And today's a day for action. So really, I would say action for today, hope for tomorrow, and believe for day after. I don't think we should change that order in any which way. We shouldn't suddenly say, let's discuss day after tomorrow when there's nothing to discuss really. We'll approach there. No? Like today we have some action to take. Let's take some action. So if there are any young minds on this talk, I would say this is a sincere message which I'll leave behind for them.
Brilliant.
Wonderful. So it was such a delight talking to you once again, and in this formal format, Sadashiv, and it's always a pleasure seeing you. And, right in the beginning, you said that you do not have the wisdom of Bhaskar or the energy that I have. But let me assure you that you have both and much more. And the biggest thing must be so apparent to all our viewers, you have that humility. And I think it is this humility which is going to carry the future group to the future that you have actually envisaged and charted out for everyone. So thank you very much for being here. To all our viewers, thank you very much for being here. And, apart from the questions on retail, if you have listened to this carefully, and I urge you to listen to this conversation again, which will be available on YouTube, you'll find these many nuggets of wisdom that Sadashiv has spoken about. And I think for me, 2-3 things that I take away, 2 of those are extremely important. One is when he spoke about learning from everything. If you have an open heart and if you have an open mind, you can learn from everyone and everything around you. What you need to be is humble. And I'm hoping that this education that we provide and the educational institutions all around, not just IIM Indore, but everyone who's providing you education is actually making you humble. So like I keep saying, Vidya dadati vinayam, Vinyam dadati patratam, patratva dhanam apnoti dhanardham tata sukham. So education has to make you humble. If it is not making you humble, then it is not education. It's something else. And the second thing is that don't let the past baggages weigh you down. And at the same time, don't think too much about the future. As Sadashiv said, the time today is the time to act. And more importantly, is to act in a way that you take those who are less advantaged with you. Don't leave them behind, because this country is going to prosper only when all of us prosper and not just a particular group. So once again, thank you very much, Sadashiv.
Thank you.
Bhaskar, thank you very much.
My apologies to everyone that I could not handle as many questions. Sadashiv, you should have seen the number of questions that came in. And
I can only say, fold my hands and say namaste to all of them, and I salute their potential for having asked so many questions. I'm happy to take them offline, Bhaskar.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, everyone. Please stay home and stay